Hi you guys, welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and this is a crafty chat just kind of covering some topics that have come up over the last couple of months that I really haven't had a place to talk about these items. So these kind of are encompassing some comments, statements, and hot takes-ish that have come out of my comment sections and DMs specifically. So I'm going to try really hard. There is one of these subjects that really makes me very angry, and I'm going to try very hard to not get hot while talking about it. I have already tried to film this video 3 or 4 times now, and I do keep getting a little hot on one of these. So I'm going to try to stay my normal happy self in having this conversation, but I do think these are all kind of interlocking and important things for us to discuss as a fiber arts community. And these are all kind of, while they're connected, they're disconnected at the same time. So this won't be like a big thing, but first off, I want to talk about anti-snobbery and snobbery within our community when it comes to tools, yarns, and fibers. Both of these, anti-snobbery and snobbery, are very detrimental to our community and how our community interacts with each other. And I've always said, buy quality, buy the best thing for your project. That is what I firmly believe. Yes, I have very expensive yarns. Yes, I have very cheap yarns. Yes, I knit both. I crochet both. But I think quality is very important for us in general. As I think with cooking tools, clothing, and everything else, purchasing the best quality item that you can afford without hurting yourself is very important. Now, I have some very distinct preferences that I can explain point by point why these are preferences for me. Such as my favorite knitting needles being the Chalgu red lace needles, or why my favorite hook is the Clover Amore hook. If you're curious about some of the reasoning behind those, feel free to check out other videos here within the Crafty Chat community. I do discuss those ad nauseum. If you are familiar with my channel, you will already know why I like them. But to me, these are the tools that work best for me as a crochet artist and a knitting fiber artist. I have been crocheting for 35 years now. I have been knitting for 16-ish years now. And I have started, I have used basic boy aluminum hooks. I have used $60 custom hooks. And for me, Clover Amore is still what I love. It fits perfectly in my hand. It reduces splitting and makes for a pleasurable experience. I like the Chalgu red lace needles because I like a fast needle. I am a very fast knitter and crocheter, so having a fast hook or a fast needle for me is very important. It makes the experience a good experience for me. I also love the join of the cable to the needle of the Chalgu red lace, and the fact that in the interchangeable set you have a small and a large, which maintains that smooth transition between the cable and the needle. I also like the fact that it is a never bend cable, so I never have to fight my cable to keep my project straight. But these are very specific reasons why I prefer these tools. That does not mean that you are using the wrong tool for you. Like I have said, the Knit Picks interchangeable needle sets are excellent. The Knitter's Pride needle tips are wonderful. I do not like their cables. Their cables kink, and I don't like that. I think that makes a fussier experience in trying to make things. Though I do like their cables in the interchangeable, for the interchangeable Tunisian crochet, because your project just kind of hangs there at the on the cable, and the project tends to straighten the cable out. It's not as fussy as it is for knitting. But as with tools, I think buying quality tools that work best for you is important. That does not mean the most expensive ones on the market are the best ones or the best ones for you. So experiment, test, experience different tools to find what works best for you. And buy quality of what works best for you. You want tools that will hold up for a long period of time. These are forever purchases. What you purchase in your toolkit is going to be something you keep with you forever, potentially, if you buy the right set in quality. You will not have to replace these over and over and over again. It's not like a yarn where you use yarn up. This is something you are purchasing to make your experience for the rest of your crochet and knitting journey pleasurable, easy, accommodating. Now, in fiber and yarn, we're going to kind of, I've got 5 points here, but this is going to kind of encompass a number of things. I believe there is a purpose for every fiber type and a purpose for every, type of yarn. I have everything. I don't particularly enjoy working with bulky necessarily, so this is my bulky yarn collection right here, this one row. But if you enjoy bulky yarn, that's great. It makes some excellent things. It is very limiting if all you use is bulky. That having been said, not everybody enjoys using fingering weight, which has become one of my favorite weights of yarn to use because I love a lot of the fingering weight I have. It has beautiful stitch definition, great drape. It is very versatile for the number of things that you can make with it. But even within a fiber type, there are different things fiber can be good for. And one of the best examples of this that I can think of to use is, say, cotton yarn. I think Pima cotton makes some of the most beautiful sweaters, tops, and shawls. It is just luscious. It's unctuous. It tends to be very finely milled. It has beautiful loft and texture. For cotton, it is very lightweight compared to some other cottons. I do prefer that for things like garments. Now, by contrast, I find things like Lily's Sugar and Cream and, or Lily's Peaches and Cream, right? The Peaches and Cream, Sugar and Cream type yarns. What I call kitchen cottons. Knit Picks makes a kitchen cotton as well. Lion Brand used to make kitchen cotton, but I find that style of cotton to be very bulky, very dense. It doesn't have a whole lot of drape. Its structure tends to stretch out if you try to make like tops, heavier tops, longer tops out of it. And I don't find the fabric to be that forgiving when it comes to wear. Also, kitchen cottons, because the fiber tends to be so dense, while you may have a beautiful, highly saturated color in the skein as you wear it, use it, and wash it, I don't find that those tend to be as color fast and stay as true to what is in the ball as certain things like Pima cotton. So if it's something you're going to be washing a lot and wearing, that can be a very important factor for your project. And just as I would not make a sweater out of kitchen cotton, I would not make a dishcloth out of Pima cotton. They're very different fibers that I think offer very different things for different projects. And I would like to see people buying quality supplies that don't break the bank. Just because it's quality doesn't mean it's expensive. When it comes to things like acrylic for making blankets, which I think acrylic makes amazing blankets, I do prefer things like anti-pilling yarn, which are a little bit more expensive than on anti-pilling fibers, but your final blanket is going to last in a aesthetically pleasing, nice looking way much, much longer with the wear and tear a blanket gets. Most blankets are something that you are heavily using. You are rubbing up against, you are washing. Frequently, these are things that are going to be machine washed and machine dried because blankets get dirty. And especially if you have kids and animals in your home, I think having something that is going to hold up to that type of wear is very important. So I'm not a fan personally of using Red Heart Super Saver for heavy wear things in the home. I think it has a purpose. I think The new ones are much better than the old ones. The new Okiotex versions of them are much, much better than they used to be. But I would say, you know, something like a Premier Anti-Pilling is exactly where I would go with that. And that doesn't have to break the bank to make a blanket. You can purchase it on sale. You can get really good deals on it and spend a reasonable amount of money to crochet a very, very nice blanket. But that having been said, do I enjoy knitting straight acrylic for a sweater necessarily? I prefer a natural fiber blend. So, you know, at least 25% wool or, you know, something like that, I think tends to make sweaters that last much longer and hold up much better over time. The elastic nature of wool tends to help things hold shape for longer and tend to offer different things. So all of this is to say, I think most fibers and most yarn types have a purpose and a place that is equally as valuable as other counterparts. Buying quality that is going to hold up, I think, is very important, and making sure you're picking the right yarn for those projects to help them to hold up, I think, is a very important thing. So that kind of encompassed a whole bunch of things at once there. I think the snobbery when that comes in, where it's like, oh, I can't believe that you work with acrylic. Like, it's the worst thing on earth. It's the worst thing you could do. And as a new knitter coming from the crochet world, you know, I grew up with where everybody was just using Super Saver or, you know, Karen Wintalk, Karen Simply Soft. These have been around for years and years and years and years. And, you know, it was all I could afford for the longest time. And coming into the knitting community and having people say, oh, well, you can't knit acrylic. Now with 16 years experience, I call bullcrap. That is horse pucky. You can, and you can block it, and you can have beautiful finished objects knitted out of acrylic yarn. I do a lot of donation knitting and crochet, and most charities specifically request acrylic because it's non-allergenic for most people and it's easy to take care of. You don't have to worry about somebody's going to felt the blanket that you donate to the hospital, or the hat that you're going to donate to the homeless shelter, or the shawl that you're gifting to somebody who needs to know that they're being loved and thought about when they're not present in the world. You don't have to worry about that type of maintenance and heavy thinking and anything else with it. So, you know, I do knit and crochet with a lot of acrylic. I make a lot of shawls out of acrylic. I make a lot of blankets out of acrylic or acrylic blends. And I think they're brilliant and they're wonderful and they hold up fantastic. That is the snobbery end of it. Now, on the anti-snobbery end of this, this is where I start to get a little hot, because this is still a little raw for me, to be honest. If you've been around my channel for a little while now, many of you guys will remember earlier this year, I took 5 of my Yarnable and ALC subscription box yarns, and I crocheted what I have to say personally is one of the most magnificent shawls I have ever made in my life. It is the Summer Freshness Shawl by Mignon Crochet is the pattern, and these are beautiful hand-dyed yarns from 2 dyers that I really love working with. I love getting my subscription boxes from both of them. I do subscription box shares of these boxes as they come in. They are works of art in and of themselves, and I was very excited in the process of making the shawl. I am still in love with what my finished shawl ended up looking like using these 5 yarns. However, as we come to the conversation about anti-snobbery and how people dig in like ticks, burrow into their standpoint on this, I had a number of crocheters come at me and say I wasted money and wasted good yarn on this shawl, because these are beautiful, I mean, just an example of some of the ones I have. These are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hand-dyed works of art. To be told that I wasted my yarn in making something that I love personally, love the process of making, love the finished object, loved the pattern. This was a project I was very, very proud of as I finished it. That was heartbreaking. And I've been around the block for a long time hearing these things repeatedly. And that same mentality of you don't have to being turned into you shouldn't. You don't have to use beautiful hand-dyed yarn to make a beautiful shawl. And I've never said you did. If you've been here and seen my projects, seen what I've made, even as I've shared, makes and the tutorials and things like that, I have made some stellar, beautiful things out of budget yarn. And to have people who know my channel, know what I make, know the types of projects I use, know the types of yarns that I use, come at me saying I wasted hand-dyed yarn by crocheting it. Because crocheters don't use those fibers. There's no reason to crochet with your hand-dyed yarns. That is just as damaging as saying you shouldn't use acrylic yarn. They are both insanely erroneous statements, ridiculously unexperienced and uneducated comments, and hurtful to our overall community. That mentality of both the snobbery and the anti-snobbery communities. We're talking about two polar opposite ends that end up folding around and becoming the exact same thing. They're the reflection of the exact same thing. It is the Janus coin effect. They are the same thing. They're just being hateful from the other side. I'm trying not to be hot about this or go off on a tangent because this really hurt me and really made me angry. But if you have a yarn you want to crochet, and this is just for you crocheters out there and kind of to you knitters, but I think most knitters, young knitters who watch this channel, young in that you're new to the knitting craft, not that you're a young person. If you have a good yarn, crochet with it. If you have a yarn that's maybe a budget-friendly yarn that you love the color and you love what it is, knit with it. If it makes you happy and it makes your experience a happy experience and your finished project is something you love and you are proud of, do it. Just do it. Don't let anybody tell you you're doing it wrong. Because other than, once again, some fibers do things better than other fibers, you're not wrong for wanting to use your good yarn or what you want to use in your project. Especially if you know what to expect in the fabric. It is something I've heard it over and over again. I've seen it over and over again. And for me, this hit kind of a little hard to home just because how excited I was and how proud I was and how much I love this finished object. To have not just one or two people, but a number of crocheters come at me with that type of mentality. I was furious and hurt. And there is no reason why you can't crochet the good yarn. And there is no reason why you cannot knit the budget yarn. And I do use both of these in air quotes. These are not derogatory terms for these yarns. It is something that really grinds my gears though. And it is something that makes me very hot in our community. And it is something I have spoken out about it since I started knitting. It became a very apparent thing. where we draw these lines in the sand, and having been a member of both communities from back in the day of only blogging and chat groups to where we are now with YouTube and Twitch and Ravelry and all these other communities, I see it a lot. And I hear a lot from people asking, how do you form a knitting or crochet group where you're not going to come across these things? Which means that even in groups not associated to LYSs, people are coming across these same mentalities over and over again of fiber snobbery or anti-snobbery, where you're never using the right product for what you're doing for some reason. Somebody has something negative to say about it. Is there a better fiber for certain things? Yes. Does that mean that the budget version of said fiber is the wrong thing? Absolutely not. And we are very blessed, especially here in the US, of having a wide range and wide assortment available to us. We have a huge fiber industry here. We have massive opportunities to use many different things. And I absolutely cannot wrap my brain around why people dig in this negative mindset of shaming and humiliating other crafters because of what they're using in that way. It is not productive. It does not help anybody. So if you're a crocheter, use the good yarn. Use the good yarn. If you have a silk you want to use, crochet it. There are beautiful projects out there for silk yarns. If you want to knit with a Caron cake, by golly, knit with your Caron cake. There is nothing wrong with it. I'm going to stop there and not let myself go off on too much more of a tangent, but that is a pretty the next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, this also leans a little bit more towards the crochet artist and future crochet designers. Learn your stitches and how they behave. So for knitting, this isn't quite as a diverse minefield as it is for the crochet artist. Most knitting things, even if you have a texture layer stack, it behaves as a single layer of, say, stockinette or garter stitch does. A little bit more, a little bit less. There are certain techniques you can use for different things. Like recently I was talking about wanting to add weight to the bottom of a sweater, so I was going to do an I-cord bind off so it pulled my project down naturally instead of letting it roll up and the stitches kind of shrink in on itself. Once again, that's knowing my stitches, knowing how my stitches were going to behave once they were off the needle. In crochet, however, we have combinations of loops and knots that we have to contend with. And sometimes our stitches, when they overlap stack like this, we can have 3 layers deep of these things, and some are going to create tension, some are going to create contraction around our stitches. Like a crochet cable contracts differently than a knit cable does. A knit cable, where your cable is, you're going to have contraction there. For a crochet cable, you actually have more contraction top to bottom generally as your project is finishing up, depending on the fiber you're using and the blocking method for that. You may have a different experience in your final product as to where those things are going to occur. But I always encourage you guys, in most of my tutorials, because I'm just teaching basic shapes, like the half circle shawl is teaching you the basic shape and the one trick to bring the shawl edges into the center of the body so it stays on your shoulders and leans forward without, creating a choking hazard or something. But I say in that, and I say in most of my tutorials as basic shapes, experiment and have fun with the stitches. And stitches behave differently in crochet. I have noticed a lot of new designers don't really spend time with their stitches to know how these stitches are going to act. Things that are great in shawls may not be great in a blanket. Things that are great in a blanket may not work the same way in, say, a sweater. Things that work in a scarf won't work in a hat necessarily. Knowing how our stitches are going to behave, lay, grow, expand, how they're going to block, stay blocked, where are things going to maybe create puckers. A lot of this does come with experience, but also you can work swatches. And like, say you're going to make a sweater and you're wanting to do like a certain type of open lace work at the yoke. You can crochet a swatch of said lace work, block it, and once it's dry, hang it on a hanger with some clothespins and maybe add just a teensy bit of weight evenly across the bottom of it, and come back in a week or two and see, did this completely like stretch out into a stringy mess, or did it hold its shape? Did it hold its design? Because, say, what's at the yoke of a sweater is going to have the entire weight of a sweater on it. Same thing with a blanket. You're going to pull that blanket up constantly. It's going to be stretched in different ways constantly. Knowing how those stitches are going to respond and react over time of that stretching motion of being pulled up, and the weight is going to create tension. These are important things to understand as design elements, as we're playing with things, as we're working with things. It also plays into knowing, is this stitch good for this fiber? Doing like a crochet dishcloth out of dishcloth cotton with a cable stitch, my fingers would want to fall off making it, number one. Number two, it's probably going to be too thick to really be comfortable to do the job it's being made to do, which is cleaning dishes or body cloth. The texture might be great on your skin if you're trying to exfoliate, but maybe there's a better way to create that texture without creating that dimension and bulkiness. I think as we gain experience, we kind of intuit a lot of these things. But I'm also seeing a lot of people who can't experience crocheters that I know personally that have been doing this 10 plus years. They can't imagine or picture how something is going to work. And I think a lot of that has to do with spending time with our stuff, our craft, our stitches, our tools, and our fibers. But I think understanding how our stitches work is a very important thing. You know, loop knots that are being held together by 2 strings, 3 strings, or 4 strings tend to separate significantly in the top to bottom with crochet. They don't separate a whole lot in between the columns that are made. So understanding where the structure points are in these stitches is very important. And understanding, like, say, if you're doing surface work like cables, how is that going to change the structure? Is like the flat area going to block out real nicely and smooth, but then your cables are going to contract and be dense? Is that going to be too much stability in an area? Understanding like seam work and stuff. If you're doing a sweater, there's a huge difference in the different ways you can seam things, especially in crochet, but also in knitting. How is that seam going to hold up and where, depending on which seaming method you use? So I do think it's important that we spend time with our basic stitches and spend time with a stitch as we are playing with things and designing things. And I highly encourage everybody to play with it. Have fun with it. There's nothing wrong with that. The last thing. This is another one of those, it doesn't make me personally as hot, but I have recently encountered this phenomena. You don't have to make what's popular. So I do not enjoy making amigurumi. I'm not very good at it. I've tried for many years. Now there's occasionally, like my Christmas collection that I did for Christmas in July, or when I was making like octopi and stuff. There occasionally is one where I'm just like all in and loving it. But by and large, that's just not what I enjoy making. I like making garments right now. I love making shawls, hats, and scarves. Those are really like where I am. I love wearables. Blankets are hit or miss for me. Sometimes I love making them. Sometimes I hate making them. Sometimes it's the wrong season for making them. 125 degrees in South Carolina some days. But yeah, I remember in the early 2000s where like potato chip scarves, ruffle scarves, layer scarves, all these were super popular, and all these people hated making these things, but they would make them because that was the popular thing to make. And I will never understand making something you hate that much. There's no reason you should feel like you have to make the it item. Now, if you have a business, there is a whole nother nuanced conversation we're not going to touch in this. That is not my area of expertise. I do not make things to sell. I do not make bulk items. But as far as those of us who just are passionate and love it and want to make things and experience things, dabble with it, play with it. Occasionally you're going to have a request or a gift you want to make for somebody that's not, something you really want to make. That's fine. But don't feel like your entire crafting experience needs to be built around things that are the it item right now. I think that is very harmful for our mentality, and it sucks the joy right out of us. And this really came up personally in a very real way when I acquired corn duck. So if you've been around recently, I went to an antique market, and they were doing an outdoor event. And there was a crochet artist who had a lot of little to medium-sized amis. And I fell in love with corn duck. He just had to be mine. He is now my little channel mascot. I am debating on having some merch made around corn duck. I know he's supposed to be a chicken, but he is corn duck because he looks like a corn duck. And corn duck's just fun to say. Corn duck, corn duck, corn duck. Duck with a D. But I had a number of people say, couldn't you have just made that yourself? Wouldn't it have been cheaper and easier to make that yourself? Yes, if I wanted to hate myself, I could make a corn duck. If I wanted to hate my crochet time for an hour, I could make a corn duck. I don't enjoy working with velvet chenille yarns. I don't like that style of yarn. It's not something I particularly enjoy. I did buy the gray one to make the lumps of coal that I made a couple years ago because I really wanted the lumps of coal and it was worth it for me. But by and large, I don't like working with the style of yarn. I don't like making amigurumi. Why wouldn't I just buy the amigurumi when I see him and support another maker, support a new maker into our space, have the thing I love and want, and not have the misery of having to make him myself? Do I know how to single crochet? Sure. Do I want to make my own corn duck? No. And that's something, I have slowly learned over the years, to be honest. I always felt like I had to be into a thing. If you know me, I love making shawls. I make bajillions of shawls. And to me, that's like the peak of entertainment. I love making shawls. I donate a lot of shawls. I gift a lot of shawls, but that is really one of those things I love making. And it's not necessarily the most popular item to make. It's not unpopular to make it, but like right now, amis are hot, and I'm not going to stop making shawls to make amis because that's what's hot right now. People like making cute softies. I don't enjoy making softies. There have been like a couple of patterns over the years that I've really enjoyed making, but by and large, that's not my wheelhouse. That's not what I enjoy doing. And I don't feel like we should feel pressure even within ourselves to make things we're not loving. And I'm worried with things cycling back, we're now in the 20-year cycle of fashion, where we're starting to see things like the potato chip scarves and ruffle scarves and things like that becoming popular again. The non-functional scarf, the decorative scarf. I'm worried we're going to see people starting to make things that they hate because they feel like that's what they should be making. I understand trends. I understand that everybody wants to feel trendy and on trend, but this is supposed to be something we enjoy. This is supposed to be something we enjoy doing. This is time we're spending, quality time with ourselves and our craft. Don't do something you hate just because it is the trend to do it. I think that's a very important thing for all of us, and we all fall prey to this in some parts of our life, but when it comes to our knitting and crocheting, don't feel that you have to do it. Right now I'm on a sock kick, and I know a lot of you guys want to knit socks, and you're trying to knit socks, and you're trying to learn socks. But like I've said, like in Project UFO, I took a 3-year hiatus from knitting socks because I got stuck and wasn't enjoying a sock project. And that's fine. Socks are popular to knit. They've been popular to knit, and I didn't knit any for 3 years because I wasn't enjoying it. Now I'm back on the train and enjoying it, but it's fine to not. It's fine to not want to do it. It's fine for that not to be what you do. There are a number of people who just enjoy knitting hats. Their primary thing is hats, and they will knit more hats than a person could wear if they wore a hat every single day in 5 years. We should be loving what we're making. We should be loving the process. We should be loving our finished objects. And, I think that's an important reminder. Don't feel like you have to only make what is trending or trendy right now. If you don't like it, walk away. So that is everything I have for today's video. I am going to have to scurry downstairs and go ahead and get this edited and uploaded so that I can have it up tonight. I'm going to use this take. We'll use this version. It's also shorter than the others. If you have something else you would like me to react to, something you've heard, something that is maybe a hot take you've heard or something else, please feel free to share down below. I will make notes of things, and we can definitely do a Carrie Talks moment again and have another crafty chat where we talk about these types of things. But I did kind of collect a list of things that I have seen, from my own comments and DMs over the last 6 months, and just incorporated it into kind of one big of my opinions. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I love you guys. I look forward to seeing you again real soon. I will actually see you on Thursday. Love you guys.